Hey everyone, welcome back to Painted. It is the last Friday in February, February 28th, here at Painted Studio, and we are doing a leap year free finish formula, blah, 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 blah. It's February, it's the last of the year. We're doing something special for everybody because it's leap year. Hey Susan, nice to see you. So I'm going to do this. We're going to go step by step through everything. Hey, Manetta, nice to see you here. So back behind me, what you see is, hey, Ashley, nice to see you too. Gosh, I'm so excited to see everybody here. Sorry for the bouncing. My camera is on a gooseneck, so every time I shift, it's going to wobble a little bit. All right, so what you're seeing here, we're going to jump right in. And I will ask, though, share, share, share. Grows our groups, helps us to be able to reach more people, keeps me around longer. I'm very excited. So if any of you saw any of my posts this week, you know I got a new Cricut Maker, which is high output small vinyl cutter. And what I cut this week are these killer stencils. And I love this stencil. This is so amazing. I love this. So of course I cut it and then I had to create a finish that would go with it. So let me stick that there and we're gonna start. We're going to end up here and you can see I have my jellyfish already here and we're gonna do this. It's our shattered coral, or cracked coral finish, sorry, cracked coral finish. I love this. And we're going to tone this a little because it's a little bright for every day on a piece of furniture or on a wall, but this is both wall and furniture finish. So we're going to start really easy. So first, and I have many boards lined up. So the first thing we're going to do is take a sample board. This is polystyrene. I carry it. It's been painted with black SetCoat. I love SetCoat. It levels beautifully, wears well, and super durable and high bonding. So I'm going to tape that up. And I'm thinking maybe I'll take my watch off. I probably should take my rings off too, but I'm not that smart. So throw my watch over on my table. We've got this set up here, and the first thing we're going to do is apply foil adhesive, which I have set up over here. You gotta open it up and get it out. And I do this all the time. If I know I'm gonna need another roller, even with foil adhesive, instead of pouring into a pan and then pouring out and having a whole lot of cleanup, if I know that I'm just gonna do this a little bit, I take a little piece of press and seal, I press it into the roller tray, and then I take my ArtsSyVille Foil Adhesive, dip my roller lightly into the can, and I can offload on there. I'm not worrying about too much offloading. And then I'm gonna roll on my surface. 100% coverage. Make sure you get all the way to the edges. And I got all the way to the edges, and then I'm going to go in. And I'm not leaving, you see I've kind of created a little bit of a fan pattern. I'm not going to leave that there like that. Why? Because it will create cracks in the directions that I've rolled if I leave really, different product. Still on foil adhesive. I don't want those roller marks to show under my foil, because if I do this, it will eventually show in my on my foil, and I don't want that. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to make sure I got all my edges. Got a little bit of fuzz because this is a newer roller. Pull that out, and then I'm going to run randomly all over this surface. I'm going to pull another piece of fiber. It's obviously a very new roller, and even though I did the whole tape thing, it's still shedding a little because this product is sticky. So then I've done that. I'm going to take it down and put it aside. And the next thing we're going to do Dun, da, da, da. Oh, the magic of television. Ha, 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 ha. We're going to put our foil on the boards. Now, this board has, I put a foil size on it yesterday. As you know, our ArtsSyVille Foil Adhesive can stay sticky forever. So I could have set this aside for a month and come back and it'd still be sticky. And we're going to take some foils in underwater kind of colors. So we have our blue, Peridot, and literally Waterfall. Oh, I love this. So cute. Thank you, everybody. I am, if I miss your questions, let me know. I will answer them, post them. I will answer them later if I don't see them when they come through. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is release a little foil. And I can do it like this with my fingers. Excuse me, I'm going to duck in front. You get my back for a second. I can do it bigger with my hand. Or I can even take a scrub brush and do it like that. And honestly, it doesn't really matter which way I'm going to do this. Except that I didn't tape that up very well. But it landed the right side up, so we're all good. I guess I better get some stronger tape. All right, we're pulling out the big guns of tape here. I set that there for a second. Grab a couple pieces of stronger tape than the little lightweight tape that I used. Every time I think I'm so smart and I got everything going the right way, I drop it. And I drop things on the job all the time. I'm a genius that way. All right, let's take a little of the Peridot green. And now I'm going to take a little of this. Excuse me, I got a piece of foil adhesive in my mouth, or a piece of foil in my mouth. There we go. I'm going to take that, pull that down. And as you notice, I am absolutely not sweating where I'm putting my foil, other than so that I get enough, a little bit of color in different areas. Yeah, let's come back with this other foil, because I think I want a little more of this color on here. That doesn't look very attractive that way. And I know, I'm sorry I'm walking back and forth in front of you on the camera, but unfortunately there's no way around that one today. So now I'm going to take the blue and I'm going to put it down like that. And then I'm going to take my brush and you can do this. Just because I'm doing this with these colors doesn't mean you can't do them with other colors. So you can see on the bottom corner there, I kind of got my foil stuck on there a little weird. There we go. Sticking in front of you again. Sorry, everybody. Let's get some more over here. So I've got now this kind of very patchy, and even this in itself, I mean, just look how awesome that is. You can see the pattern and texture of this foil, and then the solids come in, and I've just kind of created a very, very abstract background for this. So let's see. The next thing we're going to do then, now that we've done that, I'm going to duck in front of you again, is we are going to take, let's see, where'd it go? Our ArtsSyVille crackling size. And if you're not familiar with Crackle, it is a two-part process. You have to apply a crackle size down, which is a surface that allows the crackle medium to go over it. They dry and contract at different rates. One is slicker than the other, and it allows for the product on top to crackle while the size underneath stays stable, and it doesn't affect anything underneath it. Now, I've just dipped this in my can, so you can see I'm very, very heavy right here, but I'm going to spread it out. And the heavier I apply the size, the bigger the space between the cracked product, the rivers. And I will bring you a close-up to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Where did I stick that board? Okay. On this board, this is an island, this is an island, this is an island. The spaces, the cracked areas in between are the rivers. So the heavier you put on this, the crackling size, the wider that space is there, that wider that river is. The heavier you put on this crackling product on top, the bigger the islands. And this is this is how it works for every crackle product. The heavier you put on the size, the wider you get the rivers. The heavier you put on the crackling product, the bigger the islands you get. And as you notice, I'm going everywhere with this, and there's a reason. Because if I create a streak like that, that's exactly where that's going to crack, and it's going to crack in that streak. So if I wanted that, that would be really cool. But I want an organic crackle. So I'm rolling it everywhere. And again, we are using our ArtsSyVille crackling size. Again, available, but all the foils, all the sizes, all the mediums are available on my website, paintedstudio.com. And that will be listed. All the products I used will be listed. Okay, I'm going to go stick this back before I dump it, because y'all were with me the week that I dumped the foil adhesive all over the floor, so let's not do that. And then this comes down and dries. Do not force this dry. Do not. And you have to let crackle size and crackle mediums dry at their own rate. Do not force that cracking. Okay. So now here's one. We have put all the crackle size on here. Actually, I did this yesterday. And part of this is testing for me too, to see how long I can leave the crackle size on and still have it crackle. So when I come in tomorrow morning, I will have checked this, and I will put this in a picture of how it cracked in this thread with the live, so everybody can see that whether or not it worked by letting it dry overnight. And for me, it's a big deal that I can walk away from it overnight and have it still work. And I know it is for most of us. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to roll out a whole room and then have to sit there and watch the walls dry just so I can go and plaster them all and hurry it up. Now I had to drop my product and put it away. Grabbing other cans and getting out of the way so I can find what exactly I'm looking for. And what do you want to bet I put it away? Urban Crackle, there we go. I got very tidy last night and put a few things away. So the next product we're going to use is our ArtsSyVille Urban Crackle. And Urban Crackle is a plaster-like material. It can be tinted. It dries semi-translucent to opaque depending on how you've mixed it. And then I can take a little colorants. For example, I'm going to take everything gets a little crunchy when this dries up, so make sure you cover it. Otherwise, you're going to have chunks in your product. I had to clean a whole lot of chunks out of my can yesterday, not realizing that it dried the way it did on the side. And then shed into all the other products. So the first thing I did is made a very, very pale turquoisey color that I knocked down some of the intensity of it. And I really just, I'm using Faux Effects Fauxcreme Color in turquoise. And I'm just taking a little bit, squeezing it in there. And I know it's going to, what color it's going to come out. It's going to be a little bright, so I'm taking a little Faux Effects Earth Brown, which is a very green brown. I'm putting a couple drops of it in there too. And then wipe my stick off. Close my lid, because that's another thing I do. I leave things open all the time. And then I'm just going to stir it up. And I get this really nice, sort of very pale, almost green, almost turquoise color. And then I took a little of Faux Effects Custom Blue and Faux Effects Earth Brown Fauxcreme colors. Mixed it up with a little of the Crackle medium and got this sort of bluey gray color. I'm not mixing any more of that because I have just as much as I need right here. And I'm going to try to pull my sleeves back to keep my sleeves out of stuff. Not that that usually works. I got my trowel. I got to come back this way since I'm a lefty. And I'm just going to put some on my trowel. And for those not familiar with troweling, if you're left-handed and you hold the trowel, I'm putting it on the right side. If I'm right-handed, and I know this is going to look in reverse, but if I'm right-handed, I would put the plaster on the opposite side. Why? Because that's the angle I want it on the surface. I am not scraping this surface, because if you scrape mediums too hard, you can actually destroy their ability to crackle by breaking the surface tension. Although this one has been drying since yesterday, so it might be a little harder to do that. And I'm just taking it and kind of dabbing it on, moving it around, very light, very organic, because we want this to look uneven and natural. So the old dab on, knock down, except I'm doing kind of skip troweling it too. Skip troweling means I'm not trying to get it smooth and perfect. I'm letting my trowel bump and bounce over the surface so I can get some nice texture. I mean, look how cool that texture is in there. That's really nice. And I'm going to go for about 65% coverage. And the drag marks that you see in here are from the little bits of crap that were floating around in the jar. And it's dragging, so I have to sometimes go along there and pull some chunks out. And sometimes I like to pull my trowel flat and I get some really nice drag marks. Let me see if I can get that close up for you. Of course, I won't do it because I got crap on my fingers, so. There we go. See that nice texture right in there? That's from dragging my trowel. That's not what I want to have happen normally, but on this, it's great. All right, push it back out so you can all see. Sorry for the bouncing. Wonderful. All right, and I get that everybody can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pull any little chunky bits out that I can so I get as few drag marks as possible. And then I'm going to come back in and do the same with this bluey gray color I mixed. And just kind of tapping it in wherever I feel like it. The one thing I want to do is make sure I don't have any trowel marks. So I don't do that and I don't leave that line there. I'm going to come in and I'm going to smooth and I'm going to work it out. Partially because I don't want the trowel marks there. That doesn't look professional. It doesn't look finished. The other part of that is that if I left that trowel mark there, that's where the cracks would be. And this on its own, without the cracking, is a gorgeous finish. Now I could do this over golds and silvers and make it far, far subtler than I'm making with this, but you know, sometimes subtle doesn't show up very well on camera. And you know, sometimes I'm just about as subtle as a brick through a plate glass window too. So, you know, that's not always my strong suit, subtle. It's a good thing to know who you are. All right, I'm going to put a little bit here. And then this gets put aside to crack. All right, let's pull that up. And I might see some cracking in an hour. I might not see much cracking until tomorrow morning. And here we go. Whoa. I'm bumping into things. I'm working at the most awkward place in my studio that I could possibly choose, because I'm a genius that way. Okay. So now this is what it would dry looking like cracked. Now obviously I missed a few, I skipped spots here so you can see it, and it's a gorgeous crack finish. And let me do a close-up on that for you. Let's see if I can do this. I got crap all over my fingers now, so I'm putting it literally on my camera screen trying to show you. So you can see how beautifully cracked that is. And here, heavier product, heavier size. So my rivers are wider and my islands are bigger. Down in here, let me see where the camera is angled so that you can see it. Right over in here, small cracks, small rivers, small islands, thinner products in both levels. So I'm very happy with that. All right, let me push you back in. And then what we're going to do, if I can remember where I set it down, is apply our stencil. Now I cut this a couple times. And it, for those of you learning things like a Cricut cutter, this takes a little time. There was very, very, very much a learning curve figuring all this stuff out. One of them would have been, had I been smarter, I would have already had this mounted on here. But this works, for those of you who've used Modelos, it works the same way. I'm just rolling things back here to make sure it's all stuck. Because I'm sorry, folks, my fingers are covered in crud and I'm screwing up the stencil. Give me a second to rinse my hands off. Thanks, everybody. My hands were so dirty before that I was having all kinds of stuff stick to the stencil instead of the stencil sticking to the backing material. So I've got to finish wiping my hands dry and try this again. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm going up to this edge and I have to peel this back because even though I've hit it with the brayer and everything else, it still wants to stick to the silicone backing paper instead of the transfer paper, which happens. Let me see if I can do it this way, because my hands were so dirty before, it just is messing up that stencil in a big way. This could be the big fail of the night, watching me put on a vinyl stencil. And that's the backing. Come on. Oh, I know this is about as exciting as watching paint dry. And let's see. Where has my X-Acto knife gone? Or a bigger. Great. I love when I get to show you how talented I am by making nothing happen. Anybody got any great tips on getting stuff peeling when it doesn't want to? Because I'm doing this in front of you, which is of course adding pressure. Now my hands are starting to shake because I feel like I'm screwing up. All right. Well, maybe this part will be edited out when I put it on YouTube, because this is killing me right now. And I'm also not in a very bright light right here, so it's not helping me. Oh wait, I think I got it. Yay! I knew if I tried long enough, it might work. All right, so I'm gonna mount this one. Believe it or not, I'm gonna mount it upside down, because I screwed up certain things on this cutting that mounting it upside down might actually make my life a little easier. All right, here we go. And the one thing that I've learned doing this is that it is phenomenally easier to do the weeding afterwards if you use a brighter colored vinyl to do this than I have used. This kind of all blends in a little too much with my colors. So I've given myself I've made my own life harder doing it this way. But once you get this going, this peels off really easily for the most part. I might lose one or two of the really super tiny details, but not most of them. And I just got to get some things peeled off so that they let go. Oh, that wants to stick to the backing. I wonder if it got damp there. Okay. Come on, backing paper. There we go. There we go. And see, I still had some of this stuff left on here. And honestly though, for what we're doing, this is, I picked probably one of the hardest things I could do. Hi, Everett, nice to see you. Karen, thank you. Add a small triangle to any paper in a corner before adding the clear vinyl. You're right, I should have done that because I wasn't that smart. Now, I lost a lot of these details. I could either lift this and go back in here, or I can accept it as I accept many things that are flawed, because this, I gotta tell you guys, I picked a really complex pattern to put on here, and then we're about to pull this backing off and put glass bead gel on it that I then have to pick out all the little tiny details. And that makes it even harder. So really, I mean, I do things sometimes that astonish me on how hard I make my own life. So, okay, now I'm pulling off the backing. Okay. And here we go. And if you notice, I'm pulling it parallel to it. I'm not pulling it straight out like this. I never do that with any vinyl adhesive stencil, whether I've cut it or gotten it from somebody else. And the reason is simple. If I do that, I put a lot of tension on the surface here, and I could pull off not only my stencil, but all my new finish underneath. So I really, really, really want to pay attention to how I'm pulling this off to make it the most successful release. Sorry, that was a lot of work. This stuff is strong, sticky strong. All right, and the next thing we did, as you saw from the finished one, is I took some of our ArtsSyVille glass bead gel, and then I mixed in a little gold glitter and a little ArtsSyVille ice glitter, so that it had a little more shimmer when it dried, which is where we're going to here. And you can see it dried. This is still not completely dried clear, but it is looking way better. And I dried that in the hot box. So I did a forced drying on that one. Let's get another mixing stick and another little hotel room key to trowel with, because that's what I still use all the time. All right. We're going to get a little more of our glass bead gel. And straight out of the can, this is what it looks like. It dries clear to a slightly green, but this is it. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put another little blob of that in here. I'm going to cover it all back up because I don't want it to be exposed to air and dry out. I want to keep as much of my product usable as possible. I'm going to take just a little bit of the ice. That's so pretty. And just a little gold. It's gorgeous. Look how pretty that is. Look at those colors. And then I mix them up, and they don't look like anything in the jar. They look like nothing. Just looks like it's dirty. But when it dries, all that glitter goes in with the glass bead gel and looks so gorgeous. All right. So I'm using a room key, and I'm just sliding it, pushing it, frosting it literally. I'm not scraping it because I don't want the glass bead gel, the beads in the gel to drag and cause drag marks. I'm just filling in the stencil. Now, I'm showing you this with the glass bead gel so you learn how hard this particular kind of stencil could be with it. Because once I get this in, I still have to go in and weed out all of this stuff. So if it had been a brighter color, once this starts to dry a little, I would have been able to see it a little better. And then pull them all out and get a much easier feed. This way, though, if the blue dries a little bit under here, it actually matches everything else. Whereas the coral color I have up top, I would have found it in a heartbeat. Okay. All right, so I'm just trying to get it the thickness of literally one bead. I am buttering, you can see I'm pushing, my fingers are bending the card like this. It's literally laying it down as flat as I can get it without dragging the beads. All right, and then you take, like any other stencil, you take it and you peel it off. And again, I'm going, this, I already cut the stencil once on here and cut it wrong, so you're going to see me pulling off some of this in pieces. Okay. So I'm going to go carefully, go slowly, but I don't want to let my stencil dry with this stuff over it, because it will become a permanent part of the finish if I do. Come on, let it go. I'm trying not to get my fingers in this stuff, and I'm making a hell of a mess on my hands. There we go. Setting that to the side. See, this is why we wear gloves and why you all yell at me to put my gloves on. Because I never remember, and then I get that mess. All right. Come on. There we go. So you can see the outline, at least, of our jellyfish. Now, I'm going to leave this alone for a little bit, and just before I leave here, I'll probably pluck out the rest of the product, or the rest of the stencil, sorry. when I'm concentrating on something like I'm trying to do right now, like getting this piece of stuff up, I lose my words. I'll make stuff up. I have no idea what I'm saying because my mind is not 100% on talking. It's focused more on what I got here. And if you've ever used a Modelo from Melanie Royals, or if you have an X-Acto knife, they all work for picking stuff out. I actually have eyelash salon tweezers that I will use to go in here and pluck out all the other little details. All right, let's get this all off so that at least you see the basics here. And there. Nope, that one wanted to stick too. Jeez. Cut one bad stencil and they never want to leave. All right, so you can see that that is the stencil shape. I'm gonna go put this back over here, rinse my hands off. So you see, this is the step that I got to that you see dry on our other sample board, but I think it's still a little rough looking, so moment, and it just fell over. I set my board down on my drying rack and it immediately slid out, so gosh, goodness only knows what I'm going to get when I turn around and see that tomorrow, or when I get off the camera with you all. All right, I am going to do this last step fairly quickly because Jennifer Ferguson just landed in Chicago, and I'm going to try to catch up with her at Midway Airport before I leave, or she leaves. All right, so the last thing we need to do is mix a glaze. And here we go. I knew I had it here somewhere. Now there's not much left in this can, so I'm probably gonna just mix right in there. You can see. I'm just gonna put a little bit, a drop of blue, or two of blue. I'm sticking with the colors that we had before. A drop or two of asphaltum, transoxide, and then just a touch of turquoise. I'm gonna stir it and see where that gets me. Gave me sort of an algae color. See if it does what I want. Yeah, needs more color. I can test up here and I can see that I've made a glaze that's so transparent you can't see anything. So I might need to add a little more color into all of this to make something happen. I never, unless I have an exact formula that I have to match, I don't measure. I squirt in a little color here, a little stuff there, and make what I need until I get it to the right color. Okay, so this looks like mold, but it's going to be a good color for this. I'm taking an old chip brush and I'm smushing it all over the whole thing. So unglazed, this is gorgeous. Glazed, this is just a more subtle way of handling this because this is awfully bright. And I'm smushing it everywhere, all over the glass beads, all over the cracks, making sure I get a generous coating on here. Now I have two ways I can deal with it. I can either stipple it out or I can wipe it back. Stippling it out means I take something like a Neon Leon and pounce it like that. But that looks awfully muddy to me. So instead, really what I want to do is just soften the whole tone of the thing. I'm going to take some cheesecloth. Yes, we carry the cheesecloth. And I'm going to start pouncing it back, wiping it back. Okay, the only challenge right now is that cheesecloth wants to grab on the bead gel. So let me clean clean up the rest of this and then I'll deal with the This is our wonderful ArtsSyVille Glaze. Great open time, really easy to work with. Water-based, super user-friendly. And so we've just kind of taken the tone of this and softened it a little bit. And now with the jellyfish having a slightly greenish tinge, it kind of fits into this a little more. I mean, anybody doing any work for any aquariums or pet stores or stuff, this would be a killer finish in there. And in a more subtle, neutral look, it would be gorgeous in a dining room. If you think of this in creams and golds with a little silver, maybe a little silver and not necessarily a jellyfish, some other stencil if you wanted it. Okay. As you can see, I'm constantly going and looking for clean spots right now because I'm using it to pounce out the extra glaze in the jellyfish. Oh, I love that. Okay, so there you have it, everybody. Our brand new leap year cracked coral finish with our special stencils. I will be setting this up so that stencils are available for purchase. They will be limited editions as my licensing for them is limited. So I think there will probably be only like 10 of them at a time, because that's all I'm going to be allowed to be selling. That's the agreement I made when I bought some of these shapes. I will put them up, I will allow them to be purchased, and they will be purchased limited edition. They're going to be very cool. I mean, because I have not just this, I have dogs, cats, mermaids, fairies, flowers, hearts. God, I can't even remember. I mean, most of them are animal or plant, but they're killer. I mean, just think of this kind of idea with a tree of life. That would be gorgeous. So anyway, we are now at the end. Everybody, I hope you had a great time watching. I will post later tonight when I get home, I will post all of the ingredients and all the materials and the step-by-steps in this post. So you'll have all the information as well as the demonstration. I hope you all had a great time. Share the love. If you missed this here live, it will always be posted to the page, but we will also have it on our YouTube page. I've finally figured out how to change the name from my personal name to Painted Studio, so you can search for our videos live on YouTube under Painted Studio. Everybody, thank you for joining me. Have a great weekend. Bye.